Wisdom doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a certificate, a ceremony, or a moment where someone taps your shoulder and says, "You've made it." But the elders knew something most people don't. They said wisdom leaves quiet marks, silent signs, things you won't find on any list in a self-help book, and things that most people, even the ones carrying them, never stop to recognize. Today, we're going to look at 6 of those signs together. And here's what I want you to do. Keep count as we go, because if you recognize yourself in even 3 of these, the elders say you are further along than you think. Sign number 4, by the way, is the one that surprises people most, because from the outside, it looks exactly like weakness. Let's begin. There was a time, and most of us remember it, when being right felt important, almost urgent, like something precious would be lost if you let the other person have the last word. The elders watched this in younger people with quiet patience. They didn't judge it. They simply said, that is someone who still needs the world to confirm them. But something shifts after 60 in those who are truly growing wiser. The argument stops being interesting, not because you've become passive, not because you no longer have opinions, but because you've started to understand something deeper, that most arguments are not really about truth. They're about fear, about identity, about someone needing to feel solid in a world that feels uncertain. And once you see that, you stop wanting to fight it. You start wanting to ease it. The wise person in the room is rarely the loudest. They're the one who asks a question instead of making a declaration. The one who says, "Tell me more about that," and actually means it. If you've noticed yourself doing this more, not shrinking but simply choosing, that is the first sign. Think back to a younger version of yourself in a quiet room. What did you do? Most of us reached for something, and a phone, a task, a conversation, anything to fill the space. Silence used to feel like absence, like something was missing. The elders believed the opposite. They said silence is where wisdom lives, that the noise of daily life is not the natural state of a human being. It is a distraction from the deeper self that is always waiting beneath the surface. Growing wiser after 60 often comes with a quiet, unexplainable shift toward stillness. You find yourself sitting on the porch without needing music. You drive without the radio. You eat a meal slowly, without a screen in front of you, not because someone told you to, not because of a wellness trend, but because the silence has started to feel full, rich, like company. The Lakota elders had a phrase for this. They said some people learn to listen to what isn't being said, by the world, by others, by themselves. If silence has started to feel less like emptiness and more like presence, that is the second sign, not with dread, not with denial, but with something closer to reverence. There's a particular kind of awareness that comes to those who are truly growing wiser, a sense that each year, each season, each ordinary Tuesday morning holds something that won't come exactly this way again. The elders called this walking in sacred time. The idea that life is not a rehearsal you push through on the way to some more important moment. Every moment is the moment. Younger people tend to live in the future, plans, goals, what comes next. And there's nothing wrong with that. It has its season. But wisdom shifts the center of gravity. You start to notice the particular light at 4 in the afternoon, the way a grandchild smells, the sound of rain on a window you've sat beside 100 times before. And instead of these things passing unnoticed, they land. They land with a weight that is not sadness, though sometimes the eyes fill. It is something more like gratitude mixed with attention, a recognition that this, right here, is what a life is made of. If you've started to feel time this way, not racing through it but resting inside it, that is the third sign. Before we continue to the next sign, I want to share something with you. Many of the reflections I've been gathering over the years, on aging with grace, on inner peace, on the forgotten lessons that modern life has slowly pushed aside, I've brought together in a book called The Last Teachings. It's written the way an elder would speak to someone sitting quietly beside them. No noise, no rush, just the kind of honest, unhurried wisdom that most of us rarely get to hear anymore. If these teachings are resonating with you, you'll find the link in the first comment below. Now, let's continue. This is the one that surprises people, because from the outside, it can look like giving up, like the person has gone quiet, withdrawn, stopped trying. People who don't understand it sometimes call it becoming distant, or cold, or indifferent, but the elders saw it as one of the deepest marks of inner maturity. Here is the truth beneath it. The need to be understood by everyone is an exhausting way to live. It requires constant performance, constant explanation, constant adjustment of yourself to fit what others are willing to see. And one day, for those who are growing wiser, the grip of that need begins to loosen, not all at once, not without some grief, because part of you still wants it, part of you will always want it. That's human. But wisdom brings a quiet knowing. You cannot pour your whole self into the container of another person's understanding. Some of who you are will always be seen only by you and by whatever you call the sacred. And slowly, that becomes enough. The Cherokee elders spoke of this as learning to carry your own fire, knowing where your warmth comes from, even when no one else can see the flame. If you've started to need the world's understanding less, not because you've hardened, but because you've found something solid inside yourself, that is the fourth sign. There is a kind of generosity that belongs to younger years. Generous, yes, but with a small ledger running quietly in the background. Who noticed? Who thanked you? Whether it was returned. This isn't selfishness. It is simply the natural arithmetic of a person still trying to figure out their worth. But wisdom does something to that ledger. It doesn't close it dramatically, it just quietly loses interest in it. You help someone, and the help itself feels like the whole of it. You give time, attention, a listening ear, and the giving is complete in the act. There is no waiting. The elders called this clean giving, generosity without a hook in it. You see it in older people who've earned this understanding. They bring food to a neighbor without needing it mentioned. They listen to a grandchild's story, the long, wandering, looping kind, with full attention, not managing their patience, actually present. They've learned that the return for real generosity is not gratitude. It is the quiet dignity of having been the kind of person who gives. If you've started to notice this in yourself, the giving that doesn't watch the door for what comes back, that is the fifth sign. Not everyone reaches this one. The elders spoke of it with great tenderness, because they knew how hard it is. We all carry a version of our life story, the chapters that didn't go the way we planned, the people who left or stayed but hurt us, the choices we made when we were too young, too afraid, too something, that we've spent years wishing we could undo. For many people, this story becomes a wound they return to again and again, polishing it, adding detail, letting it define the edges of who they believe they are. But true wisdom, the kind the elders were most reverent about, is what happens when a person stops fighting their own story and begins to include it. Not excuse it, not pretend the hard things didn't happen, but hold it the way you'd hold something very old and fragile, with both hands, with care, with the understanding that all of it, even the broken parts, has made you someone worth knowing. The Ojibwe had a teaching. The medicine is made from the wound. The very things that marked you most deeply are often the source of the deepest understanding you have to offer to others. If you've started to move, even slowly, even imperfectly, toward a kind of peace with your own story, that is the sixth sign. And the elders would say it is the rarest of all. If these words have touched something in you, you might find a home in the last teachings. In it, I've gathered some of the most important reflections on solitude, relationships, inner peace, and what truly matters as the years pass. And when you get the book, you'll also receive, completely free, a special teaching called The Secrets of the First Hour, the quiet, unhurried morning habits that many elders considered sacred for beginning each day with intention and stillness. The link is in the first comment below. So, how many did you recognize? Keep that number with you. Not as a grade, not as something to measure yourself against, but as a quiet acknowledgement of how far you have already come. The elders never saw aging as a loss. They saw it as an arrival, a long, sometimes painful, always meaningful walk toward the truest version of yourself. You don't need a ceremony for that. You don't need anyone to confirm it. But if today, in this quiet moment, you recognized yourself in these signs, then you already know. The wisdom was always there. You were simply becoming ready to carry it.